Katy Perry is in complete meltdown as Hollywood canceled all her latest projects. From her humiliating space stunt to the cringe tour disasters, album flops, and a breakup with Orlando Bloom, everything's spiraling. Even A-list celebrities are roasting her publicly as brands and studios blacklist her like she's radioactive. You know, it still blows my mind that Katy Perry used to be the pop blueprint. Like, remember Teenage Dream back in 2010? 5 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. 5, that's Michael Jackson territory. Every time she sneezed, it turned into a hit. Firework, California Girls, Last Friday Night, back-to-back domination. And now we're sitting here watching her spiral into public clownhood with glitter, toilet props, and space cosplay. What the hell happened? Katy Perry went from being a pop princess to becoming this weird, paranoid, walking PR catastrophe who thinks launching herself 55 miles above sea level for 10 minutes makes her some kind of modern astronaut priestess hybrid. And the worst part? She really believes it's working. She genuinely thinks this stunt feminism mixed with Dollar Tree sci-fi aesthetics is inspiring women. No, Katy, it's just weird. Like, can someone get her a publicist who doesn't secretly hate her? This isn't even cancel culture. Let's not blame Gen Z or the internet. This is plain old self-destruction. One bad decision after another, stacked like a Jenga tower of delusion. First, she blasts off to space with Bezos' girlfriend, like some bedazzled Buzz Lightyear. Then, she drops a lifeless album produced by none other than Dr. Luke. Because apparently, nothing says reinvention like partnering with one of the most controversial producers in the industry. Sprinkle in a tour that looks like a cruise ship rave choreographed by ChatGPT, and finish it off with a breakup from Orlando Bloom that played out like he'd rather jump off a cliff than sit through one more of her PR stunts. That's not cancel culture. That's called being insufferable. The April 2025 Blue Origin launch was marketed like it was some historical event. Katy joins this all-female crew, and suddenly she's making space for women. Ma'am, you went 55 miles up in a flying vibrator for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. You didn't go to the moon. You didn't do experiments. You sat there, buckled in, floated a little, and came back down. The only orbit you entered was around your own ego. And don't even get me started on the public reaction because that was pure gold. Joe Rogan couldn't help but call it out on his podcast. He literally said she's acting like a guru now. I mean, he's not wrong. You've got Katy on national TV saying things like, "We weren't just taking space, we were making space." What does that even mean? Sounds like a rejected lyric from her album. Meanwhile, Martha Stewart, yes, Martha Stewart, dusted off her 2007 Zero-G clip just to remind the world she did the space float first and didn't turn it into a soap opera. And Jessica Chastain? She called the whole thing a parody of feminism. Imagine being so cringe. Jessica Chastain speaks up. I mean, ouch, but it gets worse. Oh yes, because the Blue Origin trip wasn't even remotely earned. Some brave soul pulled the actual training details and exposed the whole scam. Want to know how much astronaut training Katy did? 2 days. That's it. 2 days of practice getting in and out of a capsule, learning how to fasten a seatbelt, and fitting into a spacesuit. That's not NASA. That's Uber for rich people. And they tried to glam it up with technical phrases like egress drills, as if she was landing a rocket on Mars. No, Katy, you clicked your seatbelt and called it science. And while the PR team was busy crafting this interstellar empowerment fantasy, fans were having a field day roasting her. T-shirts were printed, memes exploded, Twitter caught on fire with people begging, "Please, can we send her back?" Wendy's even chimed in, and she got so pressed she tried to get an apology out of a fast food chain. Girl, when your career is spiraling so badly that you're beefing with Wendy's, it's time to log off and take a nap. And because that space trip wasn't humiliating enough, Katy decided to toss in a few sound bites that genuinely made the whole planet collectively gag. First, she tells everyone, and I quote, "We're putting the ass in astronaut." Like, thanks, Katy. That's the kind of sentence that makes high school science teachers quit their jobs. Then she talks about glam squads in space, how makeup is empowering, and how this is a spiritual journey filled with daisy imagery and metaphors about love and belonging. Lady, You were in a high-altitude joyride, not a space opera. And no, you're not an astronaut. You're a pop star who booked a PR stunt on a billionaire's midlife crisis rocket. People were expecting maybe a nod to women in STEM or something meaningful. What they got instead was a full-on episode of Real Housewives of the Stratosphere. She spent more time talking about her lashes than physics. Commentators straight up called it a rocket runway. Reddit threads were lit, CNN anchors were laughing. And internationally, let's just say no one was inspired to build satellites after watching Katy Perry pose for space selfies in full glam like it was Coachella in zero gravity. And the thing that stings the most? She really thought she was pulling off some historic moment. Like she truly believed she was helping society by doing a floating cartwheel above the Kármán line. The ego it takes to sit in a capsule for 10 minutes and come back crying on TV about how it taught you the meaning of love is just breathtaking. Not in a good way. In a, what the hell did I just watch way. This wasn't a win for women. It was a win for narcissism. A massive jet fuel burning middle finger to actual astronauts and scientists who've spent decades studying and training just to get a fraction of the attention she got for playing dress up in orbit. And the public saw right through it. They weren't inspired, they weren't even mad, they were embarrassed. Like secondhand, face and pillow, please make it stop embarrassment. So yeah, she got her headlines, she got the cameras and the coverage and the clout she was clearly chasing. But in the process, she also got roasted harder than a marshmallow at a campfire. And the worst part? This was just one part of the disaster timeline. This space stunt was only the kickoff. She still had a whole album to bomb, a tour to ruin, a breakup to publicize, and more roles to lose. But let's take a breath because we're only scratching the surface of this cosmic train wreck. Oh boy, where do we even begin with this part of the Katy Perry catastrophe? If the space stunt wasn't enough of a cosmic joke, what came next was somehow even worse. And I mean that in the most spectacular, slow-motion car crash kind of way. Because what followed her planetary PR trip was not a redemption arc. It was an album rollout so tragically tone-deaf and embarrassingly delusional, it might just go down in history as a masterclass in how to destroy your own career, one misstep at a time. Let's talk about the album. 1 from 43. Because when you drop an album that bad, you don't just add insult to injury, you tack on an extra digit just for the humiliation. The lead single, Woman's World, dropped with all the energy of a limp handshake. It debuted at number 63 on the Billboard Hot 100, which, I guess, is technically on the chart, but then it disappeared so fast it left dust behind. And to be clear, this wasn't just underwhelming, it was her lowest charting lead single ever. Let that sink in. The woman who once sat atop the charts like she had a permanent lease couldn't even keep her lead single afloat for more than a week or two. And if you thought that was bad, wait till you hear about the album's release. 143 dropped on September 20th, 2020 and came in hot, by which I mean tepid, at number 6 in both the US and UK. Now, for an average artist, maybe that's passable. But we're talking about Katy Perry. The same woman whose Prism album debuted with 286,000 units in its first week. Guess how many 143 sold? Just 33,000. That's not even 1/6 of Prism's launch. That's not decline. That's free fall. That's jump off the stage, land on your career level collapse. And why? Well, aside from the fact that the music itself was forgettable at best and cringeworthy at worst, let's not pretend the Dr. Luke situation didn't pour gasoline on the already smoldering fire. Of all the producers she could have worked with, she somehow landed on the one name guaranteed to detonate her credibility. You'd think after the Keisha lawsuit and the tsunami of backlash surrounding him, she'd have the self-awareness to steer clear. But nope. She went back to him like he was the key to her comeback, and all she got in return was a flaming heap of outrage. Fans were furious, critics dragged her, and Keisha supporters came out swinging, accusing her of betrayal, ignorance, and straight-up industry blindness. This wasn't just a bad choice, it was a radioactive one. And the critics? Oh, they didn't hold back. The reviews were absolutely savage, the kind of reviews you read twice just to confirm they weren't written by your worst enemy. Major outlets called the album non-cohesive, tone-deaf, a midlife crisis set to music, and a depressing reminder that stardom doesn't last forever. And honestly, they weren't wrong. The whole album sounded like someone trying to be trendy by throwing every genre, every buzzword, and every half-baked empowerment anthem into a blender, pressing puree, and praying it came out palatable. It didn't. It came out like musical soup left in the sun too long. But she didn't stop there. No. Because once that album belly flopped, she thought, you know what'll fix this? A tour. And thus began the Lifetimes Tour, which kicked off on April 23, 2025 in Mexico. Except, not really. Because almost immediately, it started falling apart. Guadalajara dates on May 1st and 2nd? Canceled. Why? Because the venue wasn't even ready. That's right. The woman who went to space couldn't even get her stage built on time. Peak logistics failure. And in the US, don't even ask. Ticket sales were an absolute joke. Some venues were sitting at 30% sold. 30%. That's not a concert. That's an awkward family reunion with LED lights. Most cities hovered between 30% and 50% capacity, meaning that over half the seats were empty. She could have filled the space better by handing out free pizzas and begging people to come for the snacks. And the actual performances? Dear God. Imagine going to a Katy Perry show expecting a pop spectacle and getting a low-budget Cirque du Soleil. Videos surfaced showing her sprinting across the stage like she was trying to qualify for the Olympics, dodging toilet props, battling AI monsters with lightsabers, and participating in what looked like a live-action acid trip. There was no theme, no cohesion, just a bunch of disconnected nonsense duct-taped together under the assumption that fans would be too distracted to care. They weren't. Critics called it a gratuitous circus. One outlet described it as a second-rate cruise show with a budget and no direction. Another said it was a pop star meltdown on stage, glitter-covered despair disguised as art. And honestly, that feels generous. Some fans didn't even stay till the end. They walked out, literally walked out of a Katy Perry concert, not because it was boring, but because it was embarrassing. Others stayed just to record the chaos and post it online like it was a social experiment. People weren't there for the music. They were there to document the fall. And it's not just the shows that screamed collapse, it's her entire mental state unraveling in real time. First, she disables comments on her TikTok. Classic move. Nothing says, I'm fine, like hitting mute on your entire fan base. That was the first clue. Then came the victim speeches. Suddenly, she's calling herself a human piñata, sobbing about how the internet is bullying her, and claiming her fans are on this journey with her. No, Katy. Your fans didn't board that spaceship, you did. Alone. With your glam squad and your motivational quotes. And those quotes? Yeah, she really tried to fix the PR storm by posting that tired old Teddy Roosevelt man in the arena quote. You know, the one about striving valiantly and being marred by dust and sweat and blood. Except instead of dust and sweat, Katy's out here battling meme pages and awkward silence in half-empty stadiums. No one bought it. Audiences shrugged, commenters laughed. Because let's be real, this mess is self-inflicted. This isn't a struggle. It's a strategy that has gone stupid. And then came the onstage tantrums. Fans dared to make fun of her voice, she snapped. She got defensive, sassy, annoyed, take your pick. She's standing on stage, lip-syncing to one of her own flop songs, and still somehow manages to get into a fight with the crowd. Thin skin doesn't even begin to describe it. It's like she's allergic to criticism now. And when the internet says she's unraveling, they mean it. Because this is a woman in free fall, emotionally, creatively, and publicly. We're not watching a comeback. We're watching a meltdown. It's almost poetic. If watching a flaming wreck plummet from orbit into the Hollywood Hills counts as poetry. Because that's where we are now with Katy Perry. This isn't just a pop star with a bad album. This is a woman who took every ounce of goodwill the world had left for her, doused it in jet fuel, strapped herself to a billionaire's rocket, and lit the match. And the fallout? It's way more than music. It's personal, it's professional, and it's painfully public. Let's start with what might be the final nail in her pink glitter coffin. Orlando Bloom. Yep, that Orlando Bloom. The one who stuck around for almost a decade, through weird outfits, wilder concerts, and at least 3 Katy Perry reinventions. As of June 2025, he's officially done. The breakup came after 9 years, and the whispers around town, they say he just couldn't handle it anymore. Because when your partner is suddenly more interested in launching herself into orbit and glamorizing toilet props than, building a real life, you start to question things. Sources close to the couple claim Orlando straight up called her recent album and space drama cringe. And that's coming from a guy who literally paddleboarded naked through Europe. He's no stranger to weird headlines, but even he reached a point where he had to tap out. Apparently, he couldn't handle the endless PR chaos anymore. One week it's zero gravity glam, the next it's crying on stage mid-performance. Somewhere along the way, their home life turned into a 24/7 press cycle and he just quietly slipped out the back door. And you can't really blame him. Orlando's a thrill seeker, rock climbing, skydiving, even that whole Bezos wedding spectacle he attended. But thrill seeking and thrill watching are not the same. Katy? She was stuck in a loop of her own disasters, spiraling in glitter, wigs, and breakdowns while he was chasing real-world adrenaline. What began as a power couple turned into a mismatched duo, him looking for authenticity, her drowning in her own stage fog. Then there's Daisy, their 4-year-old daughter. With Orlando stepping back and Katy still in the middle of an ongoing public meltdown, parenting has become yet another stage she's forced to perform on. Except this one doesn't come with costume changes or applause. Paparazzi are mercilessly tracking her, criticizing everything from her outfits to her ability to focus. And let's be real, raising a child under the spotlight is hard enough when you're stable. But when you're out here being roasted by Wendy's and trending as a meme, it becomes nearly impossible. Speaking of impossible, try keeping a job in Hollywood after all this. Katy Perry was originally lined up to voice Smurfette in the upcoming Smurfs reboot, set for release in late 2025. Keyword, was. That gig? Gone. Snatched from her and handed straight to Rihanna, who brings everything Katy no longer does: credibility, respect, and basic self-awareness. The message from studios was loud and clear. You're not safe PR anymore. You're not funny. You're not edgy. You're just risky. And it didn't stop there. She bailed on American Idol back in February 2024, saying she was focusing on other projects. Yeah, well, those projects seem to be ghosting her now. Carrie Underwood took her place, and the ratings, higher than ever. Meanwhile, Katy hasn't landed a single new TV gig. Not one. It's like she vanished, except not really, because every time she tries to resurface, it's another cringe headline. Even lifestyle brands that once threw endorsements at her are backing off. The rumor mill says more than one beauty brand has pulled out of partnership talks. She went from marketable to radioactive in under 6 months. Why? Because nobody wants to deal with someone who can't stop setting their own career on fire. Post-space flight Katy isn't an icon. She's a cautionary tale. Hollywood operates on optics, and she's now the embodiment of what happens when self-parody goes unchecked. Studios are privately calling her a PR liability. That's industry code for do not return her calls. But even if Hollywood's done with her, the internet sure isn't. The internet is feasting. TikTok and Twitter are flooded with meme after meme. Her infamous quotes, "We're making space," and "We're putting the ass in astronaut," have been plastered on t-shirts, coffee mugs, even posters at her own concerts. Reddit threads are actively tracking every weird move she makes. Tour clips are being downvoted into oblivion. There's even a mock petition going around titled, "Can we send her back?" And honestly, it's gaining traction. Even celebrities have joined the roast fest. Martha Stewart took shots at her, comparing Katy's space fantasy to her own 2007 zero-G stunt. Except Martha made it cool. Jessica Chastain straight up called the flight an utter defeat of American feminism. Joe Rogan mocked her space training like it was a glorified roller coaster safety briefing. When your peers are dunking on you harder than your haters, you know you've reached peak public embarrassment. And don't even get started on her attempts to save face. She's tried pivoting to empowerment messages, even climate change advocacy, but no one's buying it. The woman who just burned thousands of gallons of rocket fuel to launch her midlife crisis into orbit is not exactly the poster child for sustainability. It's like handing a jet engine to someone yelling, "Go green," while covered in glitter and ego. The hypocrisy writes itself. At this point, her every move just fuels the fire. One misguided Instagram post, one "I'm just being real" stage speech, and boom, another day, another trending meme. It's not a comeback. It's a shame spiral in slow motion. And when you zoom out, the picture is grim. This whole meltdown can be traced step by step. Space stunt, album flop, tour disaster, breakup, film recasting, brand abandonment. That's not a hiccup. That's a full-scale detonation. A legacy that once included 5 Billboard #1s, sold-out stadiums, and cultural relevance is now better known for toilet jokes, Buzz Lightyear cosplay, and getting replaced by Rihanna. And here's the real kicker. There's no rescue plan in sight. To claw her way out of this crater, Katy would need to start from the bottom. That means no more gimmicks, no more fake deep speeches about stardust and love. She'd need to go full detox, quiet the noise, ditch the wigs, and actually make music people care about. Not for the charts, for herself. Because right now, the only thing she's topping is the list of celebrities whose careers exploded in public. Hollywood's verdict is already in. Katy Perry is now a case study in how fame melts down under the heat of its own spotlight. Brands have vanished. Studios won't touch her. Even the fans are walking away, confused, secondhand embarrassed, and kinda sad. If she wants redemption, she better go low profile, rediscover what made people love her in the first place, and stop tweeting like she just got back from an ayahuasca retreat. Because until then, we'll be here, watching the re-entry burn, subscribed, notifications on, waiting for the next glittery disaster to land. And if you thought this was Katy's final crash, hit subscribe, because the next episode of this disaster is just getting started.